One of the biggest issues lawmakers must resolve this session is determining how to pay for and implement State Question 802, Medicaid expansion. And what about other state questions that Oklahoma voters have already approved? Reporter Jason Doyle updates the progress on how those laws are being enacted.
Lawmakers who are part of the budgeting process, like Senate Appropriations and Budget Chairman Roger Thompson, have begun outlining what the next state budget will look like starting July 1st. That's also the date the state will begin offering expanded Medicaid.
Whenever the people vote, I take it extremely seriously, whether that's on 802 or whether it's on 780 or 781 criminal justice reform. Whatever the people of Oklahoma vote on, we have a mandate from the people to make that work out for the people.
What has to be done? What do you guys have to do to make that work?
You know, early on, we had to agree on exactly what the price is going to be. And so we are at $164.8 million that we say that's what it's going to cost for Medicaid expansion. And so we'll list it inside of our budget.
Lawmakers are looking at raising the Supplemental Hospital Option Payment Program fee, or SHOP, to help pay for the expansion.
And right now it's about 2.5%. If we raise that to 4%, we can pick up about $111 million.
Thompson adds there are existing healthcare programs which will be taken over by the Medicaid expansion. The funding the legislature traditionally appropriated for those programs will now help make up the difference. However, that's not set in stone until a budget agreement is reached. That usually happens in May toward the end of the session. As lawmakers work on that issue, they are about to observe National Crime Victims Week, a reminder of the work they've done to implement State Question 794, called Marcy's Law and approved by voters during the November 2018 general election. It gave crime victims in Oklahoma the same level of rights in the justice system as those accused or convicted of the crime.
Passing a constitutional amendment is really just the first step. The next phase really involves implementation, whether legislatively, rulemaking, whatever steps might be taken, so that everybody understands who's responsible for making sure that the rights that are added to the Constitution are maintained.
Kim Moyer is the state director for Marcy's Law for Oklahoma.
We ran a package of bills that basically dictate how law enforcement is responsible for making sure that everybody receives information about their rights, and then also how district attorneys are supposed to handle it when the crime victims pass over from the investigative phase into the prosecution phase, if that happens.
Of course, they're still implementing just a little bit in some cases, but it actually has helped with helping victims know what their rights are and to get notified throughout the process.
Lauren Layman is the president of the Oklahoma Homicide Survivors Support Group. Layman's family had to go through a murder trial before Marcy's Law was put into place by voters.
Since my trial was in another county, and that's about an hour, a little bit longer away, but I had taken off work to get my family to the trial, and the trial had been changed. We get there and the trial had been changed, so no one had notified us.
The new notifications of changes to court dates have helped victims during the COVID pandemic as well, because many courthouses have delayed criminal dockets. While voters supported victims' rights in 2018, they also supported criminal justice reform when they approved State Questions 780 and 781 in November 2016. State Question 780 was made retroactive through legislation leading to the largest commutation of nonviolent offenders in U.S. history. But 5 years later, State Question 781, which mandates that the money saved by the state from keeping people from going to prison to be used for local substance abuse or mental health treatment, has yet to be fully implemented.
Unfortunately, we've seen a delay in the implementation of State Question 781.
Kris Steele is the director of Oklahomans for Criminal Justice Reform, the organization which gathered the signatures to put 780 and 781 on the ballot. He says that the state is wrestling with how to count the savings.
And I think has resulted in some delay. The good news is this past interim, we've been able to work with all the various entities to ultimately agree upon a standard formula that would give us an accurate account of exactly what those savings are.
Steele says the formula agreement means that local mental health and addiction recovery efforts will receive funding soon.
So I think that it's important to be patient. It's important to allow these reforms to have a chance to be fully implemented. And then I think that it's also important that we continue to monitor the progress to ensure that the will of the people is actually enacted.
Senator Thompson agrees with Steele. It takes continual work to make sure the people's will at the ballot box is fully implemented.
I think those that, like myself, that serve the 23rd in Lincoln, we're here to serve the needs of the people of Oklahoma. That's why we're here. That is a continual, ongoing work.
Jason Doyle, the Oklahoma News Report.